We're back. This is Renovate and Build with Jim and Sandra, powered by Fair Trade Works.
Need money. Talking about money, money, money. We need some money. We need the moolah, y'all.
I love that.
And a very good Saturday morning to you. We can't help but move to that song. Jim and I are pleased to be waking up with you this weekend on Renovate and Build.
And let's not forget our good friend, Mr. Tony Ionelli, is also an early bird like us, so getting up this early, even on a Saturday, is no problem for Tony. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Sandra.
I should also point out that Tony Ionelli is also the owner and consultant at DLC Mortgage Matches.
Tony, let's start off this morning with the heavy. Falling mortgage rates and boosting BC's housing market. For a lot of people, affordability is now a real concern. Can you provide some insight on how bad the problem currently is?
Yes, Sandra. Affordability is an issue. It continues to make the headlines. Property prices around the world continue to rise. We're seeing a little bit of a cooling down in the U.S. and in Asia, but for the most part, it's quite alarming. Here at home, the average sale price of a home in Canada right now stands at $400,000. And $400,000 doesn't seem quite alarming.
Not for Vancouver, but for those little maritime provinces it does.
You betcha. And in Vancouver, what does $400,000 really buy you?
Yeah.
It buys you a small strata.
Right.
But let's look at these numbers. I mean, in Toronto, year-to-date sales in Toronto is up 4%. In Calgary, it's up 13%. And in Vancouver, up 18%. So that's in a one-year period of time. So that's quite alarming. Those three cities alone, all by themselves, those three cities across the country represent a third of all the sales in the country. So that is very alarming.
Very alarming.
And you're right. Some of those smaller Canadian cities like Halifax are not experiencing this affordability issue.
Right.
But now let's talk about how much it costs to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at $400,000. What do you think, Jim? I mean, a $400,000 purchase, 5% down. How much is that per month?
I will guess at $1,500.
That's a very good guess, Jim. But unfortunately, it is higher.
Wow.
For a $400,000 purchase with 5% down, you're talking $1,850 per month. Now, if that's Vancouver purchase of $400,000. Well, that's again, $1,850 plus your strata, plus your property taxes every month, plus your insurance, plus.
Right.
Now let's look at the Vancouver average at $800,000. That Vancouver is actually doubled.
Yeah.
So the mortgage payment, of course, pretty much doubles. So you're talking $3,700 per month to own the average sale home in Vancouver, and even at $800,000,
It's not much.
that's not much. You bet. So, very alarming. The issue's not going away, and maybe there's some solutions.
I was going to say, we don't want to be naysayers, because there are, like you said, you just have to really start thinking about how you use your money wisely.
Yeah.
And have realistic expectations as well.
Absolutely.
So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tony, obviously listening to those, alarm, call them alarming, call them what you will, stats, what smart options do you have to help clients kind of with those kind of monthly payments?
Well, I can't change the price of the real estate. But there are some options for clients. The most common and popular option, right now is really the variable rate mortgage. Variable rates are down at as low as 2.3%. That $3,700 payment drops very quickly to $3,434 per month. So you're saving right away almost $300 per month just by going with a variable rate option over a fixed rate option. The other option that's been out there for clients is, and it still remains very, very limited, is 35-year amortization options. That $3,700 payment now drops to $2,700. $2,700. So that's $1,000 a month in a reduction of your monthly outflow. And of course, there's always the interest-only option. It's not my favorite, but the payment drops all of a sudden to $2,300, and that's a $1,400 per month savings from the $3,700. So those mortgage options exist. Not everyone can get them, unfortunately, and they can and do help. The other thing clients should be considering doing, and the time is now to do it, and that is consolidate your other debts within your mortgage. We have all-time low, and we'll talk about interest rates in a few moments, but we're talking very low interest rates. We have values that are increasing. The time to do that is now. and I wouldn't be complacent. So paying out credit cards that are 18+%, lines of credits that are at 7, 8, 9, 10%, or other debts makes absolute sense. And have one payment versus 8 payments.
And that's where we get lazy, I think. I know I do. Sometimes you just carry something over and you forget about it. And like you said, if you rolled it all together, it would be so much wiser.
No, you have
use
no
of your
money. like me, in my case, it's no money.
Now, are you personally seeing any changes to construction and lending that address these concerns right now?
Yeah, you bet. I don't think there's a municipality in Lower Mainland that's not dealing with some sort of high density issues and pricing issues. And of course, the issue locally is we're seeing people being pushed out of the city because they can't afford those payments. The popular thing has been secondary suites. That's been something that's been very common in Lower Mainland. Basement suites have been the most common. What we're seeing now is laneway homes becoming very, very popular, and being able to use both a laneway home design and a basement suite. All of a sudden, you have a property that's generating upwards of easily $2,500 a month in rent, and that's a great mortgage helper for sure. But the industry is moving to higher density and smaller units, and that will probably continue to be the trend.
Yeah.
And it's companies like Fair Trade Works that really, that lead in that smart use of land design.
Yeah, because I know we've run the math on laneway homes with you and some lending. It really is definitely an affordable, manageable option with the construction cost of a laneway home that we produce jives to lending options that you can help structure for the client. And when it's on the table, it really is manageable, right? And it's almost kind of breaks even right off the bat, and then allows them to kind of start to drive that rental income back into their prime
debt
or
reduction,
first mortgage for their original home, right?
Absolutely, Jim, absolutely.
It's definitely doable financially.
And what we're finding from our clients from laneway homes or basement suites is now with the new designs that they're not feeling like they're being intruded upon while they can still make money. And let's face it, that's a concern when you own a home. A lot of people think, I don't want more people around me. I don't want to see them. I don't want to hear them. They're not considering some of the latest designs. They're thinking of the old basement suites, right? That were quite intrusive.
You got it.
I think people's mindsets are changing too. Like, even we're talking about in generations later in the show, but just even the younger generation, they're more used to living together, or condominiums were a thing. They weren't that 20 years ago. Condos weren't a huge thing. There'd be small apartment buildings, but now everybody urbanization, everybody lives together. Everybody wants to live in communities, right? So living up and down or sharing patio space or kind of co-housing is not looked as a downside now. It's kind of a cool thing, right?
Yeah,
People say, come join our family, come join live with us, and it's just kind of cool. And I think that kind of mindset is of having the block of land and the big fence around it in the youth is changing, because the world is just coming together, right? So
yeah. Take a small municipality like Lions Bay. I live in Lions Bay, and their council has introduced a new land use master plan. And it's very focused on changing the ways we've done things in the past. So higher density, but done the right way, with the environment in mind, with good land use and good architectural strategies.
Yeah, it's cool, smart thinking. So Tony, what do you feel are the largest risks currently in the mortgage real estate industry?
Well, that's a really good question, Jim. And I have a really good answer.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Well, I'm going to call it the Great Transition. Okay. Now that you heard it from me.
That's big.
You could call it something else. You could call it the financial crisis number 2. But this is when we're going to go from very, very low interest rates to higher interest rates. And it's in my belief that this is going to be our next global crisis. Let me give you some numbers. Currently today, the prime lending rate, where available rate mortgages are all based, is 3%. And that rate has not changed since September of 2010. Okay? What do you think prime is today, Jim? Oh, sorry, Jim. Sorry. What do you think it was in 2007?
Prime in 2007, I'm going to guess at 4.5%.
Oh, that's a good answer, Jim. But in 2007, in July 2007, it was 6.25%.
Wow.
Okay? Now, that's in how many years did it take for it to go from 6.25 down to 3%? It didn't take a lot,
No.
just about 3 years. So we are very exposed to some changes to interest rates because it doesn't take much for it to be affected. I'll give you another number. The average 5-year fix for the last 10 years was 4.7%. Compare that to today at 2.8, 2.85 to be precise. That payment I quoted earlier at 3,700, well, guess what? That's about 4,500, 4,600. So big jump in interest, big jump in payments. Two quotes. I'm very excited to share these two quotes, and I think this kind of helps me make my judgment calls. But I think we need a drum roll on these. This is exciting. All right. Now this is out of China. Okay. This is the head of the banking system in China. We are restructuring instead of expanding money supply. Wow. Okay. And let me give you another one. This one's out of the U.S. Big banker. The glory days of maximum liquidity are coming to an end. Whew, that gives you the shivers, doesn't it?
It's a number man thing, isn't it?
Okay, well, what does that mean? It just simply means the days of low interest rates are coming to an end. It's that simple. It's time for people to act, not be complacent, because I tell you, when rates start to move, it'll be too late. You won't see it coming, and you will panic. You won't know what to do, and what you will do is probably what you've done in the past, is listened. You'll listen to somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. So, in my opinion, everybody out there listening, act. Don't be complacent. These rates are going to change. And in fact, they are changing. They've changed this week.
Very interesting.
So
Yeah.
call me. Call me.
It's funny because like everybody, I don't know the stats on household debt, but people are leveraged. That's for sure, right? So people are wanting to live a lifestyle. They, the sun's shining, the beach, going to walk the dog, and they move into the Vancouver marketplace, and they liquidate everything and get it down to payment and do everything they can, leverage themselves into a lifestyle that, like you said, if those rates change, it's scary.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm just recalling in my head, friends buying homes in the late 80s, early 90s that got caught in that were just, like you said, scrambling to keep their homes. And I think, boy, I wouldn't want our children to go through that situation.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, it's not higher interest rates that's the problem. It's the transition.
It's transition, that's right.
It's these cycles, peaks and valleys that can really can make wealth, but can take wealth away really quickly.
Yeah.
And if you don't manage for those peaks and valleys, that's where you become exposed and become a victim.
Right. And you start dipping from important savings and...
Well, you just,
anything you've got.
It's a snowball going down a mountain, and it can be very damaging.
So what are the options to invest in the real estate market other than owning and purchasing as an asset?
Well, that's a really good question, and of course I have a really good answer. But, some of these things out there are some of the best kept secrets. These are things banks don't necessarily tell clients. Rather than, to go buy a piece of real estate today in Vancouver, it's very expensive. So you have to pay a big chunk of capital. You got to borrow money. You got to pay property transfer tax. You got to pay the legal cost of doing it. If you're selling it, it's real estate cost. So what's the option other than saying, geez, do I want to go out and buy a piece of real estate and rent it and try to flip it and make money? Well, the other way is investing in real estate by way of being the provider of mortgages. You become the lender. And I see so many people that sit with big RSPs, that nice big balance in RSPs, and they all look at it and say, darn, why did I listen to that mutual fund advisor?
Right.
And, the mutual fund advisor is not telling you that you can take your money, instead of having the money being paid to the bank, give yourself your own mortgage. And again, these instruments, they were out of flavor back when we had, fixed income instruments producing 12, 10%. Well, guess what? That doesn't, that's not happening right now. It may sometime in the future, but so now it's better to take your money rather than give it to the bank or a mutual fund company. Invest in first and second mortgages and make upwards of 20% yourself. So a nice way of being able to create a well-diversified portfolio, different amounts, different geographies. There is no property transfer tax. There is no legal cost for you. All you need is a trusted mortgage advisor like me.
No, it makes sense. So, Tony, do you have any other kind of deals you can offer today's listeners?
I have some great deals, Jim. Thanks for asking. Unfortunately, fixed rates. I've been warning warning clients and the public over the last probably month. I said, we're probably going to see some changes to interest rates. We have seen that this week. Best 5-year fix that I could offer right now is a 2.85, so still a fantastic rate. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, they are forced into 5-year fixed. So it's not something that I, ultimately believe is a great term or product. But with our new government mortgage lending rules, people are forced into 5-year fixed, so it does matter. 3-year fixed right now, 2.5%. I don't think I've ever seen it that low. That's not going to stay at that level for a while or for any time long. I suspect it's going to move very quickly. But what the good news is, in terms of interest rates, variable rates have dropped. So as of a few days ago, variable rates were as low as 2.35. Today they're as low as 2.25. So things are happening now. People are saying, geez, hey, Tony, you just said rates are going to go up. We're at the bottom. Where there becomes a lot of confusion is in these interest rates, because there's two animals. We're talking fixed instruments and we're talking floating short-term instruments. And variables and lines of credits is all the short-term stuff. And we can see fixed interest rates rise and short interest rates fall. That's not an uncommon thing to see. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing short-term pricing improving a bit and long-term pricing adjusting upwards. So very normal to see that. I think we're at the bottom. I think we're rising from the bottom. And if you can secure something like a 3-year, 4-year, or 5-year in that 2% range, I think it's a no-brainer. You should be jumping on it.
Lock it in. Well, thank you, Tony. We appreciate your time and advice, as always. We've been speaking with Tony Ionetti, owner and consultant for Dominion Lending Center's Mortgage Matchers. For a personal consultation with Tony, you can call him yourself at 604-505-6880. That's 604-505-6880. Or you can visit his website at tonyionetti.ca.
Or simply just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/renovateandbuild, and we'll have all his information there as well. And you can hear more about the markets, especially the real estate market, on Radio Real Estate this morning, right after our show at 10 o'clock here on CIL 650.
Staying up to date with the latest in home electronics can be a job in itself. Ask our next guests. Part of their job at Fair Trade Works is to shop and bring us their reviews. That's right, this lucky duo will be joining us next with suggestions on 4K televisions. That's on Product Face-Off. Stay with us.
There's still lots more ahead. This is Renovate and Build, powered by Fair Trade Works with Jim and Sandra.